Hey, sweetie pies, it's Jasper! Yay! So I know autogynephilia. Do you know what that is? It's from Greek. Auto is self, gyna is woman, and philia is the love of, like Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. Um, so this is a term that means that I love myself as woman, and I would say in a way I it, I have the erotics of the social imaginary of what it is to be a woman, right? What we as a culture have decided is feminine. Um, Autogynephilia, crossdressers, very definitely drag artists. Let's not pretend otherwise. That's stupid. Um, and most interestingly, recently is investigation by Charles Moser of San Francisco's Institute for the Advanced Study of Human Sexuality. He said that up to I think he said 93% of women could be classified as autogynephile using Blanchard's definitions of autogynephilia. So that's really interesting, because if you go back to the second sex, to this idea of femininity being artificial, that's that social imaginary of femininity, and then so you say, okay, so 93% of women, and maybe it's like maybe you want to pick a lower number. His lower end was 28%. So one third of women eroticize being seen as a woman. And in terms of the fishnet stockings, the makeup, lipstick, eyeliner, all of this evokes this um, essentially a fetish. To use Kaplan's idea that it's all a fetish. That stockings, fishnet stockings, are just as much a fetish on a girl as on a boy, right? Is it neither one of them is really woman. Both of them is a representation of woman. It's an evocation of these erotics, these strong erotics of female sexuality. Um, that's a really interesting idea that you can have a new definition for what I'm doing, what I've been trying to find words for, male femininity, lesbian, genderqueer. But all these things refer to gender. In a way, it's always, well, I'm a male lesbian. Whereas you're not saying a female lesbian, you're saying a male lesbian, right? So it's another kind of lesbian, or male femininity, another kind of femininity. Whereas if we look instead of at femininity at autogynephilia, if that's our definition, if that's a form of femininity, and it definitely is what a lot of women consider femininity. I've interviewed them, so I know. If being an autogynephile is something that we perform as women, it's really interesting not to put it in this heteronormative matrix of saying, oh, well, it's different if it's in a boy's body than it's a pathology, right? Instead, we just look at the phenomenon. We know there's autogynephilia. I do, because I have those desires, right? So, cogito ergo sum. I can do a new Descartesian thing of, what is sexuality? Well, I know that I'm turned on by being adored. So here's a fantasy. Whether you're a man or a woman, doesn't matter whether you're gay or straight. Imagine the sexiest sex symbol you know. I don't know if you're into, who you're into. Is it Beth Ditto? Is that a sexy woman? Is it Madonna? Or is it, is it Britney Spears? I don't know. Imagine that person. Imagine you had a pill that you could take, and, you were that sexy girl, go out for a night, have everybody adore you, have everybody think you're sexy. Would you do that? Would that turn you on? And if you say yes, then you're an autogynephile. Or, at the moment you're saying yes, you're being autogynephilic. That's really interesting. But now we get another interesting is autoandrophilia. So this is already interesting on what that means. If we just leave out, am I a man or a woman? Do I like men or women? If I get off on this social imaginary, the social imaginary of Simone de Beauvoir's Femininity, if I get off on that, then I'm an autogynephile. And someone who likes an autogynephile, get this, I'm making this up, this is my word, is an autogynephile. So, if you get off on that in a woman, oh, and by the way, another set of terminology from Kaplan is male autogynephile, me, if I get dressed up in fishnets and fuck me pumps, and I do tell you, I get adored, I get totally lusted after when I do that. That's transvestite, but if a woman does the same and is adored and lusted after and gets off on that, then she's a homeovestite. So I like this equaling of the playing field. Is it really less kinky when she does it than when I do it? Really? You think so? Really? God damn it. But then to make this whole thing complete, because that's another interesting thing. So instead of being a guy attracting to women, a woman-loving man, right? If I'm an autogynephile, because what I found out when I started hanging around with the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence is they're fucking hot. I don't consider myself attracted to men, but I am attracted to male autogynephiles or male performing autogynephilia. And I'm not attracted to women performing autoandrophilia, new word here, which is even coming up in the DSM. That's if you get turned on by inhabiting this social imaginary of being a man, butch. Right? It's autoandrophilia. It's an erotics of masculinity. I consider kind of a little bit fascist, but that'll depend on your culture, I guess, on how the social imaginary of masculinity is filled in. So you have autoandrophiles. We know them. In some sense, it used to be considered a perversion for women, and it's become acceptable for women since the 60s, since Yves Saint Laurent took those fashions and turned them into women's fashions. And definitely think of Annie Lennox or something, and you want to think of the erotics of autoandrophilia. It's totally erotic, she and Grace Jones and those kind of things. And then an interesting one to throw in, and then of course we have autoandrophilophiles. I won't go into that. You can figure that one out. But then think of this one is, we have female autogynephilia, but then you get male autoandrophilia. So males who get off on dressing up and being manly, on being butch. And the reason why this is so interesting for me is because, that is, I think, what my society, maybe each society by definition, what it expects of me. It expects me to be an autoandrophile. And it expects me to get off on being masculine and tough and dominant. And I don't. And that's my perversion, that I'm not going for these fetishes of maleness. So I hope this blew your fucking mind. If it didn't, you're not listening. Thanks for sticking with me. I am unraveling the universe of gender. Deleuze and Guattari were talking about, in something I posted as Descartes, opening a line of flight through methodological doubt. Oh, this is a new line of flight in understanding desire from just not referencing the heterosexual matrix, but desire itself. Bye-bye, sweets.